A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night is a 2014 Persian-language American Western horror film written and directed by Anna Lily Amirpour. It follows the story of Arash, a young man whose father is addicted to heroin, and the girl, who is a vampire who stalks the streets, killing those she determines to be bad. The film is an excellent example of thinking outside of the box and using various techniques to get one's point across. Amirpour uses the classic example of a vampire, a typically male monster that murders attractive young women, and flips it on its head to challenge conventional ideas of womanhood and the norms of gender. To do this, she uses beautiful cinematography, explicit attention to gazes, and little to no dialogue, and she subverts the tropes of the genre. Furthermore, her work connects to two theorists, Bell Hooks and Rajeswari Sundararajan. Bell Hooks wrote about the oppositional gaze in The Oppositional Gaze, Black Female Spectators, published in 1992. She defines it as a form of resistance and agency against repressive film structures with quotes like, "There is power in looking," and the way power as domination reproduces itself in different locations, employing similar apparatuses, strategies, and mechanisms of control. She argues that the gaze can either promote or rebel against male stereotypes and perpetuate power dynamics embedded in cinematic practices that have traditionally excluded or stereotyped women, particularly Black women, in her writing. Moreover, in Amirpour's film, the vampire's gaze challenges the phallocentric dynamics of the horror and Western genres, with the antagonist being a female vampire who preys on men. Specifically, after Arash goes to a club and takes ecstasy, he is lost in the streets and meets the girl for the first time between 44:42 and 51:10. This scene is incredibly interesting to look closely at because Arash has no clue what is happening and is very high. He doesn't notice the girl approaching because he keeps looking at a street lamp. Then, he assumes that she feels threatened by him, despite the audience knowing that he is in danger because she is a veteran killer.
We're at the house. Put another one.
His gaze is very interesting because he has difficulty looking in one direct spot, with the girl, however, staring directly at him throughout the entire scene. When the girl is wheeling him back to her house, Arash is looking all around, with the camera then panning into a close-up of the girl as the audience is nervous for Arash's safety. In only one scene, the dynamic of gender has been wholly subverted, as typically, women are warned not to talk to men alone at night and certainly not go home with them. Still, Arash does both of these as he feels he is in the position of power as the man, despite him really being at the girl's mercy. The girl's gaze plays an important role in this reversal. Traditionally, cinema has denied women the right to look and behave authoritatively, instead portraying them as objects of the male gaze. In this case, however, the girl embraces the gaze, looking with purpose and control. This contradicts previous representational standards, as theorist Bell Hooks argues, reclaiming the right to look as an act of resistance. Through her reclamation, the girl not only defies patriarchal expectations, but also establishes her power over Arash and the story itself. The film also connects to Rajan's book Real and Imagined Women, published in 1993, and its deconstruction of Western representations. Rajan and Amirpour critique the idea of the third world woman, which is a constructed figure of Eastern women as passive or oppressed. Amirpour completely rejects the idea of the third world woman, as she displays the girl as someone who is not limited by the patriarchy or her culture, but instead is someone who punishes misogyny and men who use their sex as power. She rejects overly simplistic portrayals of women from the global south as either oppressed by tradition or saved by modernity. The monolithic third world woman as subject instantaneously becomes an overdetermined symbol, victim not only of universal patriarchy but also of specific third world religious fundamentalism. Rajan 184. Amirpour does a great job of depicting this resistance as the girl confronts male characters who hurt women.
دفعه دیگه با دقت کارتو میکنی ها فهمی اقدام زلزله نکن پیروک.
She kills the drug dealer because he has been exploiting a sex worker, and this action changes the typical view of a vampire preying on the weak to her being a vigilante who seeks justice for women. With this murder, the vampire, who is historically associated with colonial anxieties of the East, is reclaimed and becomes a symbol of female empowerment. The Couple in the Cage, released in 1993 by Coco Fusco and Guillermo Gomez Peña, explores the idea of unthinking Eurocentrism. The film follows Gomez Peña and Fusco as they are traveling performancers who are Native Americans from the fictional island of Guatemala, locked in a cage for Western audiences to see. While the film is supposed to be satirical, commenting on the idea of displaying foreign cultures in museums, it is clear that a large part of the audience believed their performances and thought they were actually uncivilized savages. The film connects with theorists Ella Shohat, Robert Stom, and Trin Minha. Both the film and theorists Ella Shohat and Robert Stom critique Eurocentric logic. Shohat and Stom specifically discuss it in their book, Unthinking Eurocentrism. The book discusses how Eurocentrism is a mode of thought with Europe at the center and has a strong belief in the privilege of European and Neo-European history, literature, philosophy, and the concept of the self. Quote, "Philosophy and literature are assured to be European philosophy and literature. The logic is based on hierarchical binaries such as civilized/uncivilized and self/other to preserve Western norms as universal. The act of museum visitors giving bananas to Gomez Peña and Fusco and The Couple in the Cage is a reflection of colonial practices that exoticized and dehumanized non-European people. The cage itself represents the way non-European civilizations were classed and imprisoned by European powers inside their racist narratives. Many audience members cannot understand the performance's satire, highlighting how colonial views continue to influence contemporary viewpoints."
I study a lot of the Indians. I do a lot of traveling out west, and I study a lot about the Indians, but this is one tribe that I didn't know of.
I have no idea what they're talking. I asked whether they were Mayans, and they said that I just find it really strange. I've never heard about it.
Yeah.
I've been in Guatemala, and I read a lot about American Indians, and I've never heard about it.
Strangest of all to me, perhaps, was the fact that these people who lack all our comforts, all our science, all our civilization, seemed to me yet happier and more free than we are.
Moreover, the film aligns with Trin T. Minha's critique of binary thinking in her book Not You/Like You. The book challenges rigid binaries and norms that continue to push systems of dominance ruled by the West, such as I/other and insider/outsider. The film comments on the couple's otherness, with audience members paying them to dance or tell a story. It feels like they are animals who will do a trick just for a coin. Through their story of being Guatemalans, they present themselves as a character that defies essentialist classifications, subverting the dichotomy of authentic/fake culture. Trin would call this a reductive logic that subverts the complexity of identity and criticizes the idea that genuine depiction must originate from cultural insiders. By drawing attention to the artificiality of cultural titles, Fusco and Gomez Peña question this idea and make viewers reevaluate their presumptions about authority and authenticity. By rejecting the Eurocentric desire for static, unitary images of non-Western cultures, the performance space becomes a place for decolonizing representation. Trin's concept of creativity and fluid differences connect deeply with the performance, providing a foundation for breaking down barriers and imagining cultural representation outside Eurocentric frameworks. Dear Hélène, I hope this letter finds you in the perfect light, the soft glow that feels like a mix of day and night where opposites meet and blur. It's fitting because your words have been that light for me. I don't know how else to say it. I'm completely captivated by your work, and if I'm being honest, you too. Reading Suertes was when I fell for you and your theories. Your ideas about bisexuality gave me a new view on life. Many people have always told me I had to pick a side or bisexuality wasn't real, but you made me feel heard. The way you talk about embracing the other within ourselves, about how opposites aren't enemies but dance partners, it made me feel seen in ways I've never felt before. Your theory is what I live in my life, and I couldn't agree more. You captured it so beautifully. I love how you describe writing as both flight and theft. Valor, what a perfect word for a perfect woman. Living in the middle and reclaiming parts of who I am from the binary that attempted to define me is exactly how it feels. You make it all sound so romantic, and honestly, it is. Your work doesn't just inspire me and captivate me, but you do, and it's safe to say I have a crush on you. So yes, your work has changed me, but it's more than that. It's you, Hélène. The way you think, how you perceive the world, and how you write, you've inspired me to be bolder, independent, and imaginative, and perhaps, just possibly, a bit closer to you. XOXO, your secret admirer.